Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Seema, Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering from Kaveri Institute of Technology, Mandya. So today in this session, I'm going to explain you about the lexical elements of Java programming. So which are the different lexical issues we have with respect to a Java programming language. So let's discuss each and every lexical elements of Java programming language in detail. So Java source code will consist of different words or symbols. So those words or symbols in the Java programming language is called as the lexical elements or lexical tokens. So this lexical elements of Java programming language will contain the following elements that are white space, identifiers, literals, comments, operators, separators, and keywords. These are the different lexical elements in a Java programming language. So let's discuss each and every lexical elements in detail. So very first we have a white spaces. So white space is a space, or it might be a tab, or it might be a leave line. So as we know that a Java is a free form programming language. So whenever we say about a Java, we also know that it's a free form programming language. So we know that Java is a free form. It's a free form programming languages. So it's a free form language, which means that we don't need to follow any rules and regulations whenever we are going to program any particular software. So whenever we need to design any particular software, we doesn't follow any rules and regulations in case of Java programming languages. So we could have users white space characters whenever we're writing a program. For example, we could have been written all one line or all multi-line programs in a felt like a single statement. So instead of like this, we just give at least one white space characters between different tokens. So between a different token elements, we'll give at least one white space characters. So in order to make effective way of programming, or in order to make a clear visibility, we'll give at least one single white space. So this is how we're gonna represent a single white space characters. So likewise, we'll have a tab space, so which will give a tabular white space characters. So eventually we have a new line characters, so that is represented by slash. So there's a new line. For the new line, it's also called as a white space. So this is about a white space, which is one of a lexical elements in case of a Java programming languages. So next we have an identifier. So as the name itself suggests, it is used for identification purpose. So identifiers are used for identifying the class names, methods names, and variables names. So by using these identifiers, we could identify the different class names. So we could identify different methods names. So we could identify the variables with different names. So for this identifier may be any descriptive sequence of uppercase characters, or it might be a lowercase characters, or the identifier might be a numbers, or it sometimes might be an underscore, and it eventually contains some dollar sign characters. So it is a sequence of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, underscore, as well as a dollar sign characters. So together is used for an identification of particular class names, methods names, variables names. So this is an example of an identifier. That is, we have an average temperature count, and here we have a combination of uppercase as well as a lowercase character in case of an average temperature. So here we have an uppercase as well as a lowercase combinations of characters in case of an average temperature. So it is one of an identifier which is used to identify an average temperature of a particular day. So here we'll have a sequence of lowercase characters in case of a count. So here we'll have a sequence of lowercase characters. So here we have an identifier which starts with a dollar sign followed by a lowercase character. So this is also a valid identifier. Next we have a lowercase character followed by a number or followed by a numeric. So this is also one of a valid identifier. Next we have a value of underscore display. So as I said, underscore is also one of it format of specifying or identifying an identifier. So these are the valid identifiers. So these are the different valid identifiers. So these are the valid identifiers which are used to identify a class names, methods name, as well as a variables names. So this identifier must not begin with a number because it leads to an invalid identifier. So whenever we need to identify some identifiers, it must not begin with the numbers because it will have some erroneous information or it leads to some invalid identifiers. So for example, 5s or yes or no. So by using these, we can't represent any identifiers. So moving ahead, we have a one more lexical element which is called as an literals. So these are the constant values. So literals is a constant value. So by using this literal representation, it creates a constant value for Java. So by using this literal, we can give a constant value for Java. So a constant value in Java is created by using a literal representation. So we can use literal anywhere around the program. It is not restricted that we need to use this literal at this line itself. So we need to use this literal at that line itself. So no else distinctions or none of the restrictions is there in whenever we come with the literal concepts. So we can define or we can use the literals wherever we need or wherever we want. We can use the literals. So anywhere in the program we can use the literals. So here we have a representation of integer literal. So it is representing a constant value for an integer by giving a value called 100. So this is about a floating point literal with 98.6 and character literals which is encoded with a single quotes, that is yes. Next we have a string literals which is having a sequence of combinations of letters. So this is about a literal lexical elements. So next we have a comments. So as we discuss the comments, as we discuss about a comment line in our topics regarding a simple Java programs or by explaining many of an example program, I said that the comments or the comment lines are used to provide a description of a program. So whenever we are compiling, we won't concentrate anything about a comment. So the compiler will simply ignores the comment. So the content of a comment are ignored by the compilers. So these comments are used for just to give a descriptions about a particular program or in order to explain some operations of a program to the programmer or to the anyone who is just reading the source code. So in order to give an understanding about the program, there should be a description in case of a comment line. So there are three different types of a comment. So we have already discussed with single line as well as a multi-line comments by going through those programs. So one more is a documentation comment. So let's see what do you mean by these three types of comments. So firstly, we have a single line comments. So the single line comments will begins with the double slash. So 2/ characters are the single line comments. So the comments which starts with the 2 lines, 2 slashes are called as a single line comments. So this type of comments is called as a / comment. Since it begins with 2 slashes, it is called as a / comment. So the single line comments are called as a / comment. So here we have an example which starts with a double slash. It says that this command extends to the end of a line. So this comment line will says that this command will extend to the end of a line. So next we have a multi-line comments. So this multi-line comment is used to add a comment of more than one line. So by using a comment in order to give a comment in more than one line, we eventually use a multi-line comment. So this multi-line comment will start by using a slash followed by star and ends with a delimiter that is a star followed by slash. So here we have an example that the multi-line comments with starts with a slash followed by star. We are Indians, we all are equal, and it will have a multi-lines of quotes or multi-lines of explanation, and it will also ends with the delimiters. So this is about a multi-line comment. So next we have a documentation comment. So when compared with multi-line as well as a single line comment, this documentation comment is one of a special type of comments which were used in a programming languages. So this documentation comments are readable to both a computer as well as a human. So in order to get understanding about the programmer to the computer, so in order to understand about the program to a computer, this documentation commands will give a description about the program. So the comments which is given by the documentation comment. So the comments which were written in case of a documentation comment is helpful for both the human as well as a computer. So this documentation comments will eventually start with slash followed by double star and hence with a star followed by slash. So here we have an example, that is the documentation comments which starts from slash followed by double star and it contains some information, then it will hence with the delimiter. So this is about three different types of comments which are predominantly used in case of a Java programming languages. Now let's move on next lexical elements, that is a separators. So this separators will contain the different elements. So the separators in case of a Java programming languages will consist of different types of symbols, that is parentheses, braces, brackets, semicolons, and all these things. So whenever we'll need these types of separators, will based on the purpose we will use this separator. So firstly we have a parenthesis. So this parenthesis was used to contain the list of parameters whenever we need to define any methods or any invocations about a particular programs. So this separators will helps to define the structure of a program. So in general, the separator will helps to define the structure of a particular program. So this separators in Java or Java separator lexical elements will helps to define the structure of the program, will eventually uses the structure of a program. So the different separators of the different separators that we are gonna use in case of a programs are parentheses, braces, brackets, semicolon, period, and comma. So when I used to say about a parenthesis, this parentheses are used to contain a list of parameters which are used in defining a methods and which are used in defining some invocations. So it is used for defining the precedence in expressions and containing expressions in control statements and surrounding cast type. So in order to define anything, we're gonna use this parenthesis. So this parenthesis will hold a list of parameters in methods definitions. So it is also used for control statements and casting statement. So it is also used for typecasting and control statement. So when I talk about a braces, this is used to define a block or the scope of the elements. This is used to define a block of code or is also used to define a scope of a particular variable. So by using this braces, we'll define a blocks of code or for a scope. So it used to contain the values for automatically initialized array. So by using these braces, we'll define the values for all the array elements. So by using this braces, we'll create a block of code. As I said, in order to create a block of code, we'll using two different braces, that is open braces and close curly braces. Next, in order to define any classes, we'll use a sub braces for methods also, and in order to define any local scopes, we'll use this braces. So when I talked about the brackets, these brackets are used to declare the array type. So in order to declare the type of an array element, we'll use this brackets. And it is also used for dereferencing the array value. So whenever, for example, whenever we need to dereferencing a multi-dimensional array, then in such a cases, we'll use this brackets. So next about a semicolon. So as we know that semicolons are used for terminating the condition. So whenever we need to ending the program, so whenever we end the particular statement, so in order to end the statement or in order to terminate the particular statement, we're gonna use this semicolon. So next we have a period. So this period is used to separate the package name from the sub packages, and so in order to separate the package name from the class names, or in order to separate the class package name from the sub packages name. And by using this period, it will also separate the variables or methods from a reference variables. So the last separators which were used in case of a Java programming is comma. So by using this comma, it eventually separates consecutive identifiers in a variable declaration. So it is also used to chain the statements together inside a for statement. So whenever we'll go with the for statements, we'll use this comma in order to define all the different statements together inside a particular for statement. So this is about separator, lexical element. So the next is a keyword. So as we know that, as we discussed with the basic keywords, as we discussed with the keywords of Java programming languages, this keywords are all Java keywords are also called as a reserved words. This Java keywords are also called as a reserved words. So this Java keywords are also called as a reserved words. So these keywords are particular words which acts as a key to a code. So these keywords will act as a key to a particular program, or it acts as a key to a particular code. So there are predefined word by Java, so it cannot be used as a variable or object. So there we will have a predefined set of variables, or we will have a predefined set of keywords in case of a Java programming languages. So we'll have a list of keywords here. So we'll have a list of keywords here. So these are the different keywords of Java programming languages. So let's discuss each and every keywords in a Java programming languages. So firstly, we have an abstract keyword. So by using this abstract keyword, so abstract keyword is used to declare the abstract class. So this abstract class will eventually provide the implementation of interface. So in order to provide the details of implementation of an interface, we'll use this abstract method. So it can have an abstract and non-abstract method. So this abstract keyword will contain two different methods. It will also contain some abstract method, and it eventually contains a non-abstract method. So by using this abstract method, we can provide an implementation of interfaces. And it also holds both abstract as well as a non-abstract methods. So let's see with the next keyword. So let's see with the next keyword, that is, so the next keyword is hazard. So by using this hazard, we will easily define an hazard statement. So in order to define an hazard statement, we'll use this hazard, and by using this hazard, we can also declare an unexpected Boolean condition. So we all know that the Boolean condition is either it is a true or it is a false. So this hazard function is also used for debugging purposes. So it is also used for debugging. This hazard is also used for debugging. So the second keyword is hazard, which is used to define any hazard statement. So by using this hazard, it will eventually help to declare an unexpected Boolean condition. We know that the Boolean condition is either it might be a true or it might be a false. So by using this hazard, it will help for a debugging purposes. So next we have the keyword called Boolean. So this is a type that can only stores either the value of true, and it holds the value called false. So we know that the Boolean values or the Boolean condition is either it is a true or it is a false. So in order to declare a variable as a Boolean type, we use this Boolean since it holds two different values. One is a true or another one is a false. And we also call it as either it is an yes or no. And it also called as a 0 and 1. So this Boolean is also represented by using different perspectives. Like in order to represent this, we'll use yes or no, and we'll also use 0 or 1 in order to represent the Boolean condition. So this Boolean, by using this Boolean keyword, will hold the values of true and will hold the values of false. So let's see with the next keyword, that is a break. As we know that break, the word itself suggests it will, in order to give a break to a particular statement. So to give a break, to break a loop or to switch the statement. So by using this break, it will current the flow of program. It will breaks the current flow of program. So it will breaks the current execution of program, and it will give a flow of execution from the next preceding execution statements. So this break is majorly used in case of a switch cases or switch statements. So next we have a byte. So by using this byte, it's a data type. So as we know that a byte is a data type. Byte is one of a data type which is used to declare. So we know that a byte is one of a data type. Byte is a data type that can store a whole numbers, or by using this we can declare a variables of 8-bit data value. So by using this byte we can declare a variables which holds a 8-bit data values. So next we'll have a case. So as I said, in case of a switch statement we have a different cases, right? So whenever we write a switch statement, we'll write with different cases, like case 1, case 2 till case n. So we'll have a default case. So this case is used to mark a block of text. So this is used with switch statement, and it is also used to mark a different blocks of statements, or to mark a different blocks of code in case of a switch statements. So next we have a catch. So catch expression catches the exceptions which are generated by the try statement. So by using this catch, it catches the exceptions which are generated by the try statement. So this catch is used once we are finished with the try block. So this catch is used after the try block. Next we have a char. So we know that char is a data type which is used to store a character variable. So by using this char, we declare a variable with 16-bit unsigned characters. So next we have a class. As I said in the previous sessions, class is used to declare in order to define a class, and in order to declare a class. So next we have a constant. So in order to define a constant values, in order to define a reserved keyword, so in order to declare a constant which cannot be changed, the values which cannot be changed, so in order to declare those values, we're using this const. Next we have a continue. So this continue is used to continues to the next iterations of loop, or it is used for the is used to continue the current flow of a program. So by using this continue keyword, we need to continue with the next loop, or it eventually continue the current flow of a program. So next we have a default. So majorly we'll see this default in case of a switch statement. So whenever we write a switch statement at the end of a cases, at end of a different cases, we'll write as a default case or a default case. So this default is used to specify the default block of code. So whichever we specify with default is must and should get executed. So in order to declare any classes, we'll use this default. So do, this is the next keyword which is used in case of a Java programming. So this do is used together with while in order to create a do while loop. So it is used in a control statement in order to declare a loop. So it is used with together with while loop. So this do is used together with the while loop in order to create a do while loop. So in order to create a do while loop, do is created along with a do. So used together with a while to create a do while loop. So it iterate a part of program several times. By using this do, it can eventually iterate a part of a program major amount of times or several amount of times. So this is about a keyword called do. Next we have a double. So we know that double is also one of a data type, or it is also called as a primitive data type. So by using this double, we can declare a variable which holds a 64-bit floating point numbers. So double is a floating point value which holds a double precision values. So next we have an else. So this is a branching statement in order to indicate alternative branches in any if statement. So once we'll execute with the some statement, if the particular statement is not true, then we need to proceed with the next statement. So at that particular instance of time, we'll go with this else. So by using this else, it indicates the alternative branches in an if statements. So next we have an enum. So by using this enum, it declares an enumerated data types, or by using this enum, we'll declare or we will define enumerated data types. So enum stands for enumerated values or enumerated data types. Enumerated data types, this enum is used to define a finite set of constants. So this enum is always be a private or it always be a default values. So the next keyword is extend. So as the name itself suggests, extend. So it helps to identify or it helps to indicate that a class is derived from another class, or it is also used to indicate a particular interface. So it extends a classes. So it is used to indicate that a class is inherited from another class. So next we have a final. So by using this final is called as a non-access modifier. So this final is called as a non-access modifier. This final is called as a non-access modifier, which is used for classes, attributes, and methods. So which makes them non-changeable. So by using this final, we cannot change any particular values which is defined with a final. So to indicate that a variable, so the constant values which are applied with a variables. So it is restricted to the users. So this final is only have a restriction for an user. So whenever there is a programmer who write a particular program, he will have an ability to use the final keyword. So the next keyword what we have used is finally. So final is different from final. So finally is used with exceptions. So a block of code that will be executed no matter if there is an exceptions or not. So it is indicated a block of code in try-catch structure. So it never matters about any exceptions or not. So no matter if there is any exceptions or not, the finally is used with an exception in order to define a block of code. So in order to indicate a block of code in try-catch structure, we'll use a finally keyword. So next we have a for. So we know that for is a looping statement or it is a branching statement. So for is used to start a for loop in order to execute a set of instructions. So we know that in a for loop will execute a different set of instructions, that is will execute inside a for loop will execute three different statements. That is, by using the for loop we can eventually execute the initialization condition, or will also executes with initialization condition, then will also executes with iteration, then will also checks with the condition. So by using this for loop, we eventually follows all this terminologies. So it will execute a set of instructions which need to be executed inside a for loop. So by using this for loop, will eventually execute all the particular entities. So next we have a float. So we all know that a float is also a data type which holds a single precision floating point value. So this float will eventually holds a single precision floating point values. This float will contains a single precision floating point value. So by using this float, we can declare a single precision 32-bit floating point numbers. So next we have a go to. So this go to is a jump statement. Is used to transfer the control to other part of a program. So by using this go to, we can eventually control the flow from one part of a programs to other part of the program. So next we have an if. So by using this if, we can test the different conditions. So by using this if statement, we can execute the different statements. So it will eventually works with two different Boolean expression. One is a true and another one is a false. So it executes the if block if the condition is true. So next is implement. So as the name itself suggests, it is used to implement a particular interface. So next we have an import. So it says that it makes the classes as well as the interfaces available and accessible to the current source code. So by using this import, it's a package. So it is used to import a package, or it is used to import a class, or it is used to import a specific interface. Next we have an instance of. So it checks whether an object is an instance of a specific class or it's an instance of a specific interfaces. To test whether the object is an instance of a specified class or whether the object is an instance of a particular interface. So we'll use this instance of. Next we have an int. As we know that int is one of a particular data type which we predominantly used in all the programs of Java. Unlike Java, in all the every programming languages will use a data type called int in order to declare a integer variable. So int is a keyword which is used to declare a variable that can hold a 32-bit signed integer. Next we have an interface. So it does, by using this interface, we'll declare and we'll define an interface which have only an abstract method. So by using this interface, we'll declare a special type of classes that only contain an abstract method. So next we have a long. So this is a data type which holds a variables of all, which can hold the data types of 64-bit integers. So it can store a whole numbers of larger values. So next we have a native. So it specifies that a method is not implemented in the same Java force, but same Java file, but in some other program, some other language. So this native will specifies that the method is not implemented in same source file, but is implemented in some methods of Java. So this native is used to specify a method which is implemented in native source code by using GNI, where the GNI will stands for Java Native Interfaces. So it will specify the different methods which are implemented by using the different Java Native interfaces. So next we have a new. As we know that the new is used to create the new objects in any particular program. So next we have a package. So as the name itself suggests, the package. So in order to declare a Java packages, we'll use this package. So next we have a private. So we'll have a three different access modifier. One is a private, public, and protected. So this private is an access modifier which is used to indicate a method or a variable. So when I gave a method or variable as a private, it is accessed only in a class in which it is declared. It cannot be visible to outside the class. It cannot be visible to outside the methods, or it cannot be visible to outside the member function. It is only access to the members, or it is only access to the methods. It is only access to the variables. So next we have a protected. So when I say it is a protected, so it can be accessible within a particular package, within a and outside the package. It's one of a, it is also called as an access modifier, which can protect the entire source code, which can hide the visibility of others. It is hides the visibilities of attackers. So next we have a public. So when I give an access modifier as public, when I use an access modifier as in public, it indicates that a method or a variable is accessible by anyone at anywhere. It has a wider scope, since if I give any variable or any method as a public, it can give access to all the persons. It will give an access to everywhere, anywhere, to everyone. So next we'll have a return. As the name itself suggests, this return will use to finish the execution of a method and you return in the value. So once we'll finish the execution of a particular method, by using this return, we can return a method, we can return a value. So next we have a short. So short is also one kind of a data type that can store the variables with 16-bit integers. It can store the whole numbers also. So this short will eventually store the whole numbers too. It will store the whole numbers. So by using this short, we can also store the whole numbers. So next we'll have the next keyword is static. So this is a non-access modifier. So static is called as a non-access modifier. So static is called as a non-access modifier, which is used to indicate a method or a variables, which is used to indicate a method as well as a variables. So this static is used for a memory management purposes. So this static method cannot be accessed without creating any objects of a particular class. So without having a particular class or object, this static cannot be work. So next we have a strict FP. So strict the precision, in order to strict the precision values of rounding of the floating point calculation, we'll use this strict FPF. So to restrict the floating point calculation, and in order to ensure the portability, we'll use this strict FPF. So next we have a super. So this refers to the parent classes. So as I said, in case of an inheritance, this super class is also called as a parent class, right? So this super is a reference variables which is used to reference a parent class of a particular object. So in order to invoke an immediate parent class method, we're going to use this super keyword. So next we have a switch. So this switch statement, this is a switch control statement which executes based on the test values. So it also tests the equality of variables against different set of statements or against different set of values. So this switch statements will select one of many code block. It selects only one code among many blocks of code which eventually get executed. So in order to select one of many, we'll use this switch. So next we have a synchronized. This synchronized is also a one of a non-access modifier. So this synchronized is also a one of a non-access modifier which specifies that a method can only be accessed by one thread at a time. It will say that a method, it will eventually say that a method can be accessed only by one thread at a particular time. So this synchronous is a non-access modifier which specifies that a method can be accessed only by one thread at a time. So in order to specify the critical method, we're going to use this synchronized. So next we have this keyword. So this keyword refers to the current object in a method, or it is used to refer the current object in a constructor. So next we have a throw. So in order to throw an exception, we'll use this throw. In order to explicitly throw an exception, we use this throw keyword. So to throw the customer exceptions and not to follow any instance, we use this throw. So this throw will also create a custom error. So by using this throw, it will eventually create the custom error. So it will create a custom error. So by using this, we can eventually create a custom errors. So next we have a throws. Throws indicates what exceptions may be thrown by a method. So in order to declare an exception, or in order to propagate a checked exception, or in order to indicate what exceptions may be thrown on a particular method, we'll use this throws keyword. So next we have a transient. So this transient is also a non-access modifiers which is used in a serialization purpose. So it specifies that an attribute is not a property of object's persistent state. So by using this transient, it will specify that. So by using this transient, it will specify that an attribute is not a part of an object's persistent state. So by using this transient, we can specify that an attribute is not a part of an object's persistent state. So this transient is used in the case of serialization purposes. So next we have a try. So this creates a try-catch statement. So in order to create a try-catch statement, or in order to create a blocks, we'll use this try. So in order to start a block of code, we'll use this try keyword. So this try is followed by a catch or followed by a block. Next we have a void. So we know that void will return any values. So it doesn't contain any values. So to specify some method which doesn't return any values, we use this void. Next we have an volatile. So to indicate and variables which can change asynchronously. So in order to indicate any attribute which is not cached thread locally, so which is always read from a main memory. So in such cases we use this volatile keyword. So next we have a while. So by using this while, we're going to start a while loop condition in order to execute a different statements. So these are the different keywords. These are the different 50 keywords of Java programming languages. Thank you all.